presentations done. We encourage you, of course, to ask questions, to engage with the presentations, with the presenters. So feel free to use the chat function to ask your questions. Ideally, you put a little Q in front of it so it's easier to identify. Also, if you have any type of comments or something is not clear, please feel free. We're a really manageable group. I see 19 people at the moment in this webinar, so we're really a manageable group. So feel free to interact and to participate actively in all the presentations, ask your questions, and so on and so forth. And after each of the presentations, we'll take a little bit of time to try to answer any type of questions, to make sure that all your questions and your concerns are being addressed in an accurate manner. Now, today, for the next upcoming 1.5 hours, we will have a full agenda with 3 different presentations. We'll have a little bit of an interactive session, and hopefully we can share our knowledge and our experience and try to improve not only the project, but also your knowledge and your experience by just using the knowledge that we have now in this digital room, in this digital webinar, to really kind of craft some new ideas and get everybody's ideas together so that we can increase our knowledge and our experience all together. Now, I would like to start by introducing our organizers and our project team that is behind the Women4IT project, and that is also behind this webinar, of course. And maybe let me get started and ask everyone to just say a quick hello. So Kasia, if you could say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. It's great that you're here today with us, and I'm very excited for the session.
Fantastic. So Kasia is from Digital Europe, just as Neve. Neve, could you say hello as well?
Hi, everyone. It's great to see everyone here today.
Hello, Neve. Fantastic. Then we have from the Latvian Information and Communications and Technology Association, long name, in short, LICTA. We have Vita here. Vita, can you say hello to everyone?
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be here with you all in this afternoon, and hope we will have a nice and productive meeting today.
Fantastic. And the last presenter of the day will be Andrada from the Foundation Education for an Open Society in Romania, or short EOS. Andrada, say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Let's get this party started.
I like this attitude. Fantastic. Great, Andrada. All right, with this being said, and you have met or digitally met at least the presenters, let's get right into it and learn a little bit more about the Women4IT project, what the background of this webinar is, and learn everything sort of on a bird's eye perspective. So Kasia, if I could ask you to get started with your presentation and give us an idea of why does this project exist, what numbers, what is the story behind Women4IT?
Thank you, Stefan, and hello, everyone, once again. Thanks again for joining today. Before I jump into the main topic, and talk a bit more about Women4IT, and before we go into this employer engagement conversation, I wanted to take a few moments to tell you more about Ausma. And Neve, if I could have the next slide, please. Ausma is one of our Women4IT trainees, and she's coming from Latvia. As many young women across Europe, she found herself without a job, and she was at the moment in no sort of education or training. She wanted to gain new skills and become more competitive on the job market. And she wasn't really sure about how to go about this. But luckily, she found Women4IT, or we found her, not sure how that story went specifically, but she discovered Women4IT and she decided to join the project and get trained by us. So for a few months, she went through a hands-on, very practical course on digital marketing. And indeed, with the support of her trainer, her mentor, but also the strategy that she created for herself specifically throughout the course, she managed to land her dream job in Latvia. And she's currently working in a digital media team exactly in Latvia. And this, in a nutshell, is Women4IT. This is what we aim to do. This is what we aspire to do. We really want to empower young women with hands-on digital skills training in very kind of on-demand practical skills, and help them to land a, let's say, junior level job that will later on kickstart their careers. But on top of that, we really want to build their confidence and give them stability and economic independence that goes together with all of the above. And this is how kind of Women4IT came together. This is especially important because we find ourselves at an intersection of three really big societal issues that we're sort of trying to tackle here in the project. A part of that, of course, well, driving women's empowerment across Europe, and that comes with bringing more women into the digital sector and technology. The digital skill gap altogether in Europe, and then the galloping youth unemployment. And you can see that the EEA and Norway grants is supporting us in this cause because we're part of their Fund for Youth Employment initiative, where we're really trying to tackle these causes all together with different projects. Neve, if I can have the next slide, please. We already know that the situation of women in technology is not so great. So if we look at the STEM program graduates, only one out of 3 of them is female, but only 1 out of 5 already is a woman when it comes to ICT specialists. And then if that is not enough, if we look at all the employed women in the European Union, we find out then maybe around 1.5% of them are actually ICT specialists. So there's definitely a lot of room for improvement for gaining the skills and get into that job market. But what really highlighted, I think, the issue of women not being as much in digital as men was the COVID pandemic and the response to it and how that impacted women. Well, first of all, the vast majority of care workers in Europe are women. Most of them were also working during the pandemic or before the pandemic in the services field at the very kind of front line of what basically the front line of the pandemic and the support. So not only services but healthcare and supporting the pandemic throughout. Additionally, they were taking over unpaid care responsibilities in their families for their loved ones, dropping out of the labor force for a longer period of time. Especially they took over more carrying responsibilities compared to their male counterparts. So we can see easily how heavily impacted women's employment was by the COVID pandemic. And I kind of want to say that with more women employed in digital jobs, and also more women having the up-to-date skills, those skill sets, including various digital skills, not only basic digital skills that we saw that we really need during the COVID pandemic, but also advanced digital skills to take on those ICT roles. Maybe this massive impact could have been to some extent avoided or can be avoided in the future. And here, of course, I'm knocking on wood, but in case anything happens in the future, this is a good and a skill set to have. This is our belief. And then the cross-cutting issues, of course, is the youth unemployment. In the EU, only this August, the youth unemployment reached 16.2%, which is already a lot. And then in countries like Spain or Greece, this rate, the youth unemployment rate, is already higher. And luckily, these are the countries that are part of our consortium and we're piloting our training. So, of course, we're dealing with a lot of complex issues, and the one project, the One Women4IT, can't solve it all. But we do hope that our underground work really contributes to the causes that I just mentioned, and that it helps inspire more action, and that hopefully with the tools that we have created and the initiatives that we have started to build, we can inspire other organizations to scale up these tools and maybe involve themselves in driving Women4IT or similar initiatives in their own organizations, regions, or cities. So that is it from me. And then talking about the groundwork that we have within our project, let me invite my colleague Vita, who will tell you a bit more about how we have worked over the last 3 years and what the achievements of the project have been. Thank you so much. And Vita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Katarzyna, for the nice European insights and the overview. Thank you all for being here. I'm happy to see and connect with you all here today as we are near the finish line of the Women4IT project. I'm so proud to represent Lichte today and to tell you about the project, which actually has made a real impact on real women all over Europe. This project has been a real success, and I'm happy to share our story. We started almost 3 years ago. Can change the slides? Yes. We started almost 3 years ago with a vision and a goal to address the gap of women represented in the ICT sector and to address the youth unemployment issues in Europe in general. 3 years ago, as we remember, the world looked quite different than today. And yes, of course, we had some challenges on the way, but actually COVID has helped us a lot in several aspects on the way. For example, approaching women into rural territories all over Europe. And if we initially planned to train young women into face-to-face trainings, then we were kind of forced to push the trainings online. But this gave us a wider accessibility to the training for the women who cannot otherwise participate in the face-to-face training. So we received feedback from the participants that it was especially crucial for young women in rural territories, for young mothers who have decided to change their careers during maternity leave as well. So our main target audience, as Kasia already mentioned, we addressed the two main groups. Younger women in raising awareness campaigns about the career opportunities in the ICT sector and the growth possibilities. And our main target audience, this was NEET women in the age group of 19 to 29 years old. For those of you who are not familiar with the term NEET, these are young women neither working or neither in training. And our main focus was on NEET women in the piloting countries, Latvia, Lithuania, Ireland, Spain, Greece, Romania, and Malta as well. So our initial target was to assess 1,000 young women in the piloting countries, and out of these 1,000 to train 700 young women, 100 in each of the piloting countries. What we planned to do and done differently in our project was not to provide only an assessment and the training, but also to provide mentors to help the young women to start their digital careers and bring them together with the employers. We organized different support and mentoring activities all through the training process and supported women in job search and in internships in cooperation with the future employers. To make our cooperation even more effective, we created the employability toolkit, which helped as a guide both for women looking for a job and employers who were seeking to employ specifically needs. This will be the topic which my colleague will talk to you later on. So NEET women was the main target audience, and we approached it several ways. We created the digital platform with all the information, available information, and the profiling tool. We invite women to use the Women4IT profiling tool. We created 8 job profiles, gathering all the information about the jobs, the responsibilities, the needed competences. We created attractive infographics, so it's easily to understand. And we created tests for each of the 8 job profiles. So women could evaluate their digital readiness and their suitability for each of the job profiles we had created. Women selected to the training each had an individualized roadmap created for her, covering all the things and topics which were included in the training. And yes, and as I mentioned before, one of the things that we created was this employability toolkit, which the main topic why we are here today, to show you the employability toolkit, to present our findings, and maybe to encourage you to also use it or to kind of see our approach and maybe use it as an example in your daily life. So 8 job profiles, which I already talked about, they were selected and developed together with the industry specialists and employers. Out of the 8 profiles, each partner country, they choose 4 to 6 profiles depending on the country to pilot, based on each country's job market needs. Each of the women who done the tests, they had the possibility not only to evaluate their suitability to one of the profiles, but also to apply to training in one of the profiles of their choice. All out of the 8 profiles we piloted, the most popular profile was the digital media specialist profile, which already Katarzyna mentioned in Ausma's example. And it had 137 graduates out of 646 young women we trained in total. If the initial plan was to inform 10,000 young women and assess 1,000, then we are very pleased that we were able to double and even triple those targets. But I believe the most important data I would like to share you in this slide is that out of the women we trained, approximately 70% of the graduates, they found job after the training, which was the real success rate in our eyes. Okay, a bit from statistics to people. Katarzyna already told you about Ausma. You've seen her, and Katarzyna told you a small insight about her. But I had the honor to be involved in her mentoring in Latvia. We have become Facebook friends since that, and we get in touch after the training had finished. So I'm really glad to see her climbing up the stairs. So when I met Ausma first, it was in summer 2020, and she was a free spirit. She was a really active and ambitious young woman with no job at the moment and not studying anywhere. She met with her state employment agency consultant, who informed her about the Women4IT opportunities. She went to the platform, she registered, and she done the tests. And then she applied to several of the courses which we offered, and she was selected for the digital media specialist courses in Latvia. She was one of the 125 graduates we had in Latvia. She participated in every webinar we had with the employers, all the mentoring sessions she had with the mentor. During her training, she selected a specific company in Latvia, and she created a digital marketing, social marketing strategy for the company. After the graduation, what she did, she took the strategy she had created during the training and applied for a job in this company. And she was successfully hired as a digital marketing assistant. But her story doesn't finish there. She continued working in the company and gaining more practical experience and practical knowledge. And so she wanted to step even further. She applied for the position for the official Paralympics media team for the Latvian Olympic team. And she was selected, and she went to Tokyo together with the official delegation as a media representative. Of course, this is not only because of the training. She was a really enthusiastic and ambitious young woman, but I'm glad that our project helped her to claim one step further to her dream career. What I wanted to say is that she was only one of the hundreds of girls we trained. And I believe that we have a story, just like Ausma's, behind every statistical number you will see here today. So I believe that this is not about the numbers. This is about the opportunities and the life changes we were able to create. So thank you. This is currently all from my side. I'm open to any questions. Feel free to write them also in chat. And I will give the floor to Stefan.
Yeah, fantastic. What an inspiring story. I'm a bit jealous. I also want to go to the Olympics to Japan. So I see there's no questions in the chat yet. Now is your moment. If you have any questions so far about the Women4IT project, if maybe a question about Ausma's particular story, feel free to write it in the chat window now, or simply say hello, show us that you're there, so that we know that that you're still listening. Let's see if someone actually says hello. I'll try to be the first one. Get people a bit involved. But yeah, what an inspiring story. Really great to hear. And I think what you said is absolutely correct, that we see a number, a statistic, 600, 700, and it's just a number. But of course, it's great to see that there's actual stories behind, concrete life experiences, and changes have been made with the project already. People are starting to write. Fantastic. Do we have any questions so far? Anyone who's curious, feels like there's something that hasn't been covered, or any interesting things you want to share yourself about the project or about similar projects? I'll give it a few more moments to see. Nif also posted the project website, so you can always go there if you still have any questions. Of course, you can find out more about the project on the actual Women4IT project website. Give it a few more moments. It seems like you two have been crystal clear. There's no questions. Thea is writing that they'd be happy to participate and work together. They're working on a similar project on Coursera and Google in Estonia. Fantastic. Also training 100 women. Fantastic. So maybe you can get in touch also after this webinar, maybe exchange some ideas. Of course, I hope, Syria, that in the next hour or so, when we go through the employment toolkit and also exchange some experiences, you can share your experiences with us as well. And maybe we can start a collaboration here. Fantastic. All right, if there's no further questions, I would suggest that we move on to the actual employment toolkit, make it a little bit more concrete, even more plastic, understand what the employment toolkit is all about and why is it so important that today we are focusing on employers' engagement. We're not focusing on how to encourage women to participate. We're not talking about how to promote the project. We're talking very concretely about how do we actually engage employers, how do we get them involved. So it's my pleasure to invite Andrada to give us a presentation on what the Women4IT employment toolkit is all about, why is it important, and how can others use the toolkit in the future. So Andrada, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. So hi again, everyone. I'm Andrada, I'm from EOS, from Romania, and I'm going to speak to you today about the employer engagement, first of all, and then we're going to switch to the employment toolkit. So yes, as you can see, there are three main points here. We are going to cover the strategy around which the project has been developed, the impact the pandemic has had on the project, and the success we managed to gain throughout the project. So next slide, please. From the beginning of the project, Women4IT strategy was developed in close relation with employers in all piloting countries, for the sole reason of making the project as collaborative as possible and to be able to include in the toolkit, which is one of the tools that will lead on the sustainability of the project, the co-design principles behind it. Employer perspective is important, first of all, because of this. In order to make this happen, we went through 6 main steps. The recruitment of employers was managed in each country through partnerships, contacts via relevant stakeholders, communities, and events, like public and private employment agencies, job fairs, networking events, chambers of commerce, or career counselors in schools and universities, and so on. And in order to do these, some of the activities that we did for the engagement were basically direct messaging, phone calls, contacting our own networks from our associations, collaboration with employment agencies, social media presence, a lot of it, sponsored campaigns, one-to-one meetings, presence of expositions, and all sorts of events. Then after trying to reach out to employers, we went on to the research on the job positions. Which are hard to fill because of the skills gap that is generally present in Europe. So this part includes consultation with employers. We basically talked to them and asked them, what's the situation in each country, what's the situation on every job profile, and what are the needs around it, and so on. And the results are represented by the definition of 8 job profiles, which Vita mentioned earlier, that basically form the basis of the training program in Women4IT. So then development of training roadmaps on each of the 8 job profiles we developed were made also in consultation with employers, just to ensure that their needs in terms of general and more specific technical and soft skills are covered by the entire training program. Further, engagement in the actual training. This is where we asked employers for active participation in selected training and mentoring, motivational sessions, tips and tricks, and so on with the girls. Bringing the employer perspective on expectations in terms of skills and attitudes. So during this entire process, we were working on the development of the toolkit, which you've heard about earlier, for employers. We thought that we can develop this in order to support them understand the value of their engagement in the co-creation of this training program addressed to women. And finally, but not least, organization of focus groups and just feedback mechanisms in order to understand how to improve their experience in program, such as Women4IT. So for the interaction of from the interaction with employers, we basically learned their needs and expectations, and this helped us sketch a more thorough toolkit to be put in use in the later stage of the project. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in terms of adapting to COVID and its impact on the project, we've asked all partners that piloted Women4IT to share some of the challenges they met during the piloting and their experience, of course. So EOS, Plan, ICS, and CretiDev felt that the lack of face-to-face events put a big print on the engagement, and this resulted, unfortunately, in less involvement on behalf of employers that might have hired women that graduated the training. As for the internship opportunities, they were no longer available for graduates of Women4IT program. Licta in Latvia experienced things a bit differently, as they had a mutual gentleman's agreement made in the beginning of the collaboration with an employer and did not follow through with providing internship to the trainees as initially discussed. And also the change of an HR manager from another company changed the game of getting the employer involved in the program. So as you can see, these kind of things basically happened and they were, we couldn't have stopped them. So these are just impact of the pandemic. On the other hand, Betty in Lithuania, our partners from Lithuania, they had good experience and close communication with employer engagement. They went to national trade associations, to business women associations and employers in general, and they had good collaboration regarding this. So not everything is so dark. We've had good experiences and success overall. So, however, if we look at the bigger picture, most of the employers were open to discussions and willing to chip in with information and help when we reach out to them. Across all piloting countries, a total of 178 employers got engaged throughout the project. And here I would like to mention, next slide, please, how we developed the age job profiles, which I think Bit already mentioned in her presentation. So basically, each country piloted the most wanted job profiles on their national market, and this was done. This was possible because of the really close engagement of the employers. So back to the success figures we extracted from the project. Another 315 employers hired ready trained women from the project, and so we managed to reach 70% of the total target of total learners from all piloting countries, which is again something that we are very proud of. And this actually just proves that despite all the obstacles encountered on the way, we managed to develop basically a self-sustainable mechanism, and we consider this that it's definitely a success. Because if you think about it, women couldn't have gotten hired without the implicit engagement of employers, and vice versa, employers couldn't have gotten involved without women trained after the employer co-design curricula having applied to their jobs. So yes, big up for the Women4IT team. I think we did a very good job on this part, considering all the events. And next slide, please. Regarding the lessons learned and the suggestions for improvement. So again, here we talked with all the partners that piloted, and we learned that most of them experienced more or less the same challenges. So therefore, the ideas for improvement suggest more investing more into social media campaigns targeted directly at employers, making online events for them more attractive, as meaning just more interactive and more accessible to them, and having more one-on-one meetings with employers and more face-to-face group events. I know this is kind of limited because of all the COVID restrictions across Europe and globally in general, but this would have been one of the most important things apparently. All in all, feedback received also from the focus group we organized with employers in each country revolved around the good implementation of the tools that we developed, the good initiatives taken during the project, and nonetheless, the outcomes that play a very important role in the sustainability of this project for the near future of employers who want to get involved and gain more experience in collaborations, but carry a load of bad timing and questions like, what if COVID didn't happen? And next, I am going to switch on to the employment toolkit. If we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So this goes hand in hand with the employer engagement, which I talked about earlier. This toolkit represents one of the most important project resource that was utilized for exactly the employer engagement. The English version of the toolkit that we developed gathers compiled information from all piloting countries, which is Spain, Lithuania, Greece, Romania, Malta, Latvia, and Ireland. And it is basically split in two main sections: the toolkit for young NEET women and the toolkit for employers. For those of you who don't know, actually, Vita mentioned that NEET means not in training, education, or employment. So this is the target group, and in Women4IT case, we targeted women up to 30 years of age. So yes, next slide, please. The first fold of the toolkit, the one for women, has three main chapters that we considered would be logical steps a candidate might take before going into a digital job, which is basically a new domain for them. And an easy to follow structure, which we described in the toolkit in these 9 steps, the image you see on the right side of the slide. In that 9-step path, basically they find all the information they need to change or begin their new digital career. We take them from zero to digital hero. And all the 3 chapters, they cover all the information they need from profiling themselves, matching with available jobs on the market, to finding training providers, and finally getting their CV and the application ready. The next slide, please. Thank you. So during their profiling stage, it is important that they use another important tool developed within the project, which is digitaljobs.women4it.eu, the profiling tool that Vita also mentioned in her presentation. And this one is localized in all languages. And besides the necessary resources, it offers the opportunity to self-assess in basic digital competencies, to take aptitude tests for all 8 digital job profiles and find their match with the certain profiles, to get enrolled in the training, get in touch with mentors and start the recruitment phase, have access to personalized training roadmaps elaborated especially for them to be able to view their evolution of their digital pathway in the account they create on this platform. So next slide. Thank you. So the toolkit for employers. This is the main subject of this meeting today, of how employers can get involved with projects like Women4IT. And in this toolkit, we try to specify exactly that. So the ideas behind building this second fold of the toolkit were mainly focused on the benefits that employers can have when engaging into projects and using toolkits like this one. For example, the way that employers, when they're struggling to find new staff, to hire new talent, they can get help in recruiting phase for new staff. It's basically a free service we offer to them, and we're taking part of that part. We're taking the girls and we're training them, and then we're just serving them as ready trained talent. So Women4IT is giving them access basically to a pool of already trained women to hire and build an inside community to help them excel in launching their digital careers. We're also talking about being part of the change, of adding the need category of women to the digital sector and benefiting from collaborating with this project, with Women4IT. Next slide, please. So after doing that and reaching out to employers with this toolkit, we've asked some of the employers that have collaborated with us to give, short feedbacks and testimonials from their experience, and we've had some positive feedback and encouragement for future projects. I've just taken out some examples from all the countries. And on this slide, you can see testimonials from Daniela Ciuma, which is an HR manager at Victory Square Partners in Timișoara, Romania. And she hired Diana Mladin. She's a junior web developer graduate from our training into a web development internship. And after 3 months she got a full-time job there in their dev team. So another example is I hope I'm saying this name right, Kristaps Skutelis, which is director of PR at Test Dev Lab in Latvia. And he mentioned that in total, they hired 6 girls from Women4IT tester training group, and they developed an in-house course following the Women4IT example, the training that Women4IT developed. So I think this is really great. We're serving as good examples as well. I think our purpose has served us well. And we can only be so proud of this trust vote we received from them, the employers that decided to get involved in the project and benefit from it as well. And I really hope that this goes on to other employers and organizations across Europe and can use this as a good example. So in the next slide, you will just see the link to the digital platform for profiling, the profiling tool, and the website where you can find more news and resources, and you can access the toolkit in the first link on above. And for any other questions, yeah, I'm here. You can always reach out. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Andrea. This was once again some great examples and also success stories. To see how Women4IT not only did it help the women that actually participated, but it also inspired particularly one company here to implement their own training in-house, which is of course great to see that it also can serve as a blueprint for other initiatives. And that's of course something we're also trying to do today, to make you aware of everything that is happening. I saw that quite a few people joined a little bit late, so maybe just a quick summary of what happened so far. We heard a little bit about the disparity in Europe with women working in the IT field, and then we had a presentation about the Women4IT project, which tries to address this issue by offering to young girls and young women the opportunity to get trained in 8 different digital job profiles, and then getting connected with employers to maybe start a traineeship, an internship, or some type of junior job position. And a lot has been done throughout the last 3 years, a lot of success stories. So for everyone who just came in, of course, there was already some questions in the chat about the presentations and the employer's toolkit. I'm sure that the organizers of this webinar, so particularly Kasia and Neve, will be sending out the presentations that you've been seeing, or some of you might have missed the first or a bit part of the first or second presentation. You will get the presentations afterwards sent to you, and I think also the employment toolkit. If it doesn't work for you to download it, this can probably also be added to the email that you will receive after the event, of course. Now I'm looking at the chat. Is there any questions you have so far? Is there any other questions or comments besides the ones that have already, of course, been shared in the chat about the employment toolkit, how to reach out to employers? Anything you've seen so far? We'll give it a few moments to see. Nave, could I ask you to stop sharing the presentation for a moment? We have a fantastic moment in this webinar. So the presentations are over now. So now we will have to turn the tide, and hopefully we can encourage the people that are here with us now to also share their experience, or at least watch how others are sharing their experience with us. But before we do that, I would love to take a group picture. And at the moment, it's the organizers and me as a facilitator who have their cameras switched on. We will not force you to switch on your cameras, but in case you would be willing to switch on your cameras now and show us your faces, maybe smile in the camera for 2 or 3 minutes until we take a little group picture. That would be fantastic. So if you have the possibility to switch on your camera, we would love to take a group picture of everyone. I see some people are switching on their cameras. That is fantastic. We have someone from Plan there who's also a project partner, second person from Plan. Hello, everyone. Good to see some faces. All right. Let's see if more people will be switching on their cameras. Nif and Kasha, are you taking the picture? Am I taking the picture? Are we all taking the picture?
I think we're all taking the picture, but we've got it under control, so no worries.
Okay. Yeah, thanks everyone for switching on your cameras. So we have something to also to show. Everybody smile. Think about how many success stories we already had, and how many more there will be in the future. And
thank
Kasha,
you so much. I think we've got it.
You got it. Fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for switching on your cameras. If you feel more comfortable, leave them on or switch them off. That's, of course, absolutely up to you. Now, as I already mentioned, we still have quite a bit of time, maybe half an hour or so, to share some experiences with each other about engaging employers. We want to hear from you, but of course, if you maybe don't have so much experience yourself, maybe you can learn from others. And to do that, we now want to do something a little bit more active, something where we also engage you a little bit. And the big question here is, how can we best engage employers? To do this, we will be sharing a tool with you, which is called a Padlet, which is pretty much just a whiteboard, or in our case, a digital whiteboard, a corkboard, and we'll be sharing this with you in the chat right now. So I'd ask all of you to join us on this little whiteboard, digital whiteboard or digital corkboard. This is a Padlet link, so please join us on this Padlet, and I'll try to explain how this next session is going to work as soon as I see a few people join us in this Padlet. As I said, it's a digital whiteboard, a digital corkboard, which allows us to exchange ideas, for you to contribute. And the topic of the next activity will be employer engagement. So how do we engage with employers? Would like to hear from you on how maybe your projects or the project Women4IT, or maybe other skill building initiatives. We already had heard from one of the colleagues that they're also doing a similar project in Estonia. How do you engage with employers? How do you ensure that they understand the benefits and are willing to hire new staff, whether that's in a junior position or an internship? And this Padlet will serve us now to have the opportunity to look and share ideas with each other. So I hope everybody made it to the Padlet. It's pretty straightforward. In the bottom right corner, you will see a pinkish, purplish kind of plus button. So if you want to add a new sticker, you just use this plus button and you can add new stickers. So that's like putting a little, what are they called? A little piece of paper on the corkboard. And of course, you can see you can add comments to existing stickers. So we will already have here the assignment, an example, and also something that is called the me box. But let's quickly go through the assignment. So for the next 10-15 minutes, I would like you to take some time to reflect and comment on other people's reflection and create new stickers for each type of outreach activity you can think about when it comes to how to engage employers. So imagine you are now part of the Women4IT project team. You have a horde of well-trained young women, young girls, and you want to reach out to employers. How would you reach out to them? What type of outreach activities exist? So I encourage you, once you are in the Padlet, to just create new stickers and be at liberty to just add your ideas. So we see already the first person is adding social media. So now, if, as you can see in the example, if someone says social media, feel free to share your experience. What works well on social media? What works maybe a bit less well? Is there some particular mechanism or process that you use on social media that works particularly well? So comment on the activities, share your experiences, give examples, and elaborate on how to best use each of the activities. Now you also see one box, and that's going to be the last for me before letting you all share your experiences. You have something called the map box. And the map box is where all the bad experiences go, because we of course know that sometimes some things work very well, but you might have experienced in the past, or you might think that there are some activities that are not working so well. So please feel free to use the red box, the meh box, to also share your negative experiences, so that maybe colleagues or the partners here in the Women4IT projects can avoid these mistakes, can learn from these mistakes, maybe do it better in the future. So I will let you do the work now for the next 10, 15 minutes, just to share ideas, and then we will discuss some of the ideas afterwards together with you. You can log yourself into the Padlet via a Google or Microsoft account. You can do this in the top right corner, but if you want to stay anonymous, feel free to just comment and contribute anonymously. If you want to log in, feel free to do so in the top right corner. And I will be quiet now and let you share your ideas and your processes in this little digital corkboard. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting discussions going on. Feel free to add more questions if something is not clear to you or you have experiences with some of these activities. I see there's some really great ideas that have not yet been formulated a lot. So if you have anything to add, whether you have the experience or from this particular project or some others, feel free to share with us. Right, I think we're slowly slowing down in terms of comments, but there's still there is a new one popping up just as I'm saying it. Desk research and follow up. I'll give you a few more minutes just to add a few more ideas, questions if you have them. All right, I think there's not being much added anymore. At least I can't see much being added. So what I would do now is try to summarize a little bit what I'm reading, what I'm seeing. Um, and since we're not so many, we're a relatively manageable group and we have a bit of time. So I would maybe also ask some questions for some of the things that I personally find very interesting and that maybe need a little bit more highlighting. So if I look at the Padlet, there's many different ideas. The first one that immediately I think popped up was social media, which is of course I think nowadays sort of a standard when you want to communicate something very broadly and very widely. Lorenzo made a great comment here about finding Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups maybe that are dedicated for the IT sector, maybe employers groups. So that's something, of course, which requires a little bit of research and would have to look for these groups. There's an example here for Romania, but I'm very curious if others have similar experiences, if they use social media, especially paid campaigns, successfully. Of course, nowadays in social media, it's not anymore like the beginning days of advertisement in social media. If you don't pay, you usually don't get such a big reach anymore. So it definitely has also its limitations, but of course a very important one. There was a second big one here, which is called networking in events. So that's something, and of course during COVID it was mentioned that it's very difficult if you can't meet in person. I think we all have these experiences that when you're in an on-site meeting, whether it's a project meeting or you're just meeting people in an event, you sort of have the ability to stand with someone alone and have sort of an individual chat, something that is very difficult to reflect in an online environment. So it's very difficult to kind of, yeah, allow these kind of small talk, if I can call it like this, sort of the maybe even the coffee area talk. That's very difficult to mirror into an online environment. So indeed, maybe now that COVID is slowly, or the measures are in most countries kind of slowly being taken back, and networking events are possible again, that's definitely something which works much better on site and in person, and yeah, something that we definitely need to get back to be successful. There's a whole bunch of other ideas. I'm not going to go through all of them. I personally found the headhunters idea interesting. I hadn't thought of headhunters for kind of junior position, but it seems that there is these type of individuals. They are, of course, maybe you need to pay a bit or get them involved somehow with maybe, yeah, getting some type of exposure to them, but yeah, definitely an interesting way. One that I would maybe like to hear from you, the ones that maybe experienced Women4IT, so whether that's our presenters or other partners, is the one that I see now in the bottom right, using the learners as ambassador and enhancing networking amongst learners. Could we have someone, whoever it is, tell us a little bit more about this? Do you have some experiences with it? Is there a concrete example on how to facilitate such an activity? Let's see if we have a brave person speaking up.
Hello.
Syria. Yes, hi,
yes,
Syria.
I was the one who posted the comment, so I can comment it as well. And of course, very happy if somebody else can also share their experiences on similar matter. But what we had a similar project that you described. We took 100 learners, and then we thought, okay, we need to have some kind of a platform or place where we gather them together so that we can share the learning materials and information about internships and so forth. And so we weren't thinking at this point at the networking effect, but what initially happened was that when the first learners started to find internship positions and jobs, and also found other interesting online courses that they were taking, they started to share their ideas or the insights with others. For example, if they started working in a company and this company had some vacant positions opening, then they would immediately share these posts into this collaborative platform. We used Slack. But it took also a lot of energy actually from our side. So for the first 3 months at least, I was the only one posting all the time, and they were just consuming the information. But as they grew more confident in the field and in the area, they started to post as well, and now it works really well. So this is something I would recommend.
Really great success story. Thank you so much for sharing. It sounds really interesting, and I can imagine that in the beginning you had to be a bit active one, but then as soon as the first peers are starting to post, then probably people are warming up to it and also contributing. Yeah, I like this idea of I call it peer pressure, but sort of the positive peer pressure of seeing there's some successes, and that's what the others are doing, just to make it of course also more realistic for other learners. Thank you so much, Syria, for sharing this. Anyone else wants to maybe comment on something they have been writing? I see that while we're discussing this, people are still adding some new things, job search websites, partnering with this big media. Anybody who would like to share some or elaborate a bit on some of the thoughts that they have posted here in the Padlet?
I see that someone has added the online job fair sticker. We tried it in Latvia, and unfortunately, this was not one of the most successful activities, but we did gain some dissemination, and companies got to know about the project a bit more and about the opportunities, but no real contracts came out of this participation. But this was together also with the State Employment Agency, and State Employment Agency regularly created these job fairs for companies and for job seekers. So yes, this is an option. Of course, we should analyze what was our mistakes, why it wasn't not so successful as we wished to. But yes, this is also a good opportunity.
Can I ask something meanwhile? I would like to ask how I understand, if I understand correctly, you also kind of directly contacted the companies, and you found these 178 companies who were part of the project, who contributed. But how were you then handling the process? I mean, 178 companies is a lot. So how were you running this project in a smooth way that they were all able to contribute? They knew what you were expecting from them, etc. So maybe you can share a bit light on that as well.
The total number, this is the total number for all piloting countries. So this is not for per partner. So I can share my experience in Latvian pilot. Then of course the 25 comes from Latvia, the employers, and of course there are employers who are more actively involved, and then there are employers who are just seeking for the information or hiring the girls. So in our case, we had some few companies who actively participated. They joined webinars, they were involved in mentoring, and the rest of the companies, they wanted to participate, but in a more passive way, receiving information, providing opportunities and things like that. So it was not kind of an active day-to-day work with every company on the list.
Okay, I see. But when you were, for example, putting together these roles and competencies for these roles, so how were they involved then in this process?
We organized focus groups for the profiles, and then we had interviews with the companies, and we have for the profile creation also. I believe partners are here who can explain more into detail. But yes, in Latvia, it was mainly through focus groups and through individual contacts.
Yeah, and I can chip in and say that during the job profile study, we basically, I remember we simply contacted either HR managers or people from companies that we knew personally from our contact list, and just discussed with them via phone or emails, or had one-to-one meetings, because back then there was no COVID yet, so we could still meet and have meetings on the topic. So yeah, just direct questions and talks and meetings on the topic.
Okay, one more question. I'm sorry if I'm taking all the space and time here, but I would like to now ask from the learner's side, from the learner experience side. So do I understand that you kind of put together a list of acceptable, good quality trainings, online trainings, and it was up to them to select those trainings and pay for the trainings as well? Or how was this organized?
I can comment on this. The trainings were funded by the EU grants. Each of the partners did the procurement procedure in their country. So we had each our own training provider, which provided the training based on the roadmaps we have created for the job profiles we have created in the project. So women did not have to pay anything. So when they took the tests, they chose the training, and then we created training groups, and the training provider provided the training.
Okay, but did you have like all the trainings in English and kind of all together, or every country had their own trainings in their own local language? This is the final question, I promise.
No. Feel free to ask more. Yes, we had the localized trainings, of course, in Ireland and in Malta. The trainings were and are planned in English. For the rest of the countries, yes, it was localized. in the partner countries, partner country languages.
So it's a lot of trainings if you would have 8 profiles and providing trainings in Latvian for all eight profiles. Am I right that you are doing that?
I believe I mentioned in my presentation, in total, we created 8 profiles. And then each of the countries, they selected the profiles that are most in need for their job market.
Okay.
So, for example, in Latvia, we did the training in 2 main groups. The first group, we had 4 profiles trained. And in the second, in the spring, we had 5 profiles training in parallel.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Some profiles were so popular. For example, we had the tester profile, and we had quite good cooperation with the testing company who was willing to hire the graduates. So the tester was the most popular course in Latvia. So we had several groups of testers because of the limitation. We had, I believe, 10 to 12 participants per course, per group.
And also in Romania, the tester profile is really popular. Right now, when we're ending Women4IT, we keep receiving messages to AOs asking, what about another tester training? Apparently, it's a very wanted profile in this part.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, I will not take more of your time, but I would be very, very happy if we could talk later on, maybe one-to-one, more details, and maybe there are some materials that we can use to build similar trainings here in Estonia. So that would be really, really helpful.
All the materials are available on the digital platform. I believe Need posted here in the chat with you. It will be sent out by Katarzyna, I suppose. And all the material, the roadmaps, the tests are available online, as well as the employment toolkit. So feel free to contact us if you have any questions. And I see it's posted in the chat.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Really, I mean, thank you a lot for sharing this experience. This is very valuable, honestly.
We're happy.
And this is what we can say from the previous project experiences. And we had some similar projects with the employer engagement. The training is the easy part, to be honest. The most hardest part is to find the employers and to get their engagement and to kind of push them and explain them why should they hire this person who has gone through relatively short training, which was 160 hours. For the testers, this is understandable because for the 160 hours, you can give the basic course for the junior role if you have general understanding, if the person is mathematical thinker and things like that. So you can provide the basics. But for other roles, when we developed the 8 profiles, this was one of the criteria. So we have these 160 hours, and for which profiles you can give the basic knowledge for a junior position or an internship in the company. So it's not like when you finish the 160 hours, then you can enter into university. This is also a good case, but if we want them to get hired, they have to gain at least some good basic knowledge for the company to be interested in the participants.
Actually, we have the same experience that it's, we were, in the beginning, we were a bit worried, where will we find these 100 women? 500 applied within a couple of weeks, so that was no problem. Then, finding the trainers, and we used like a combination of Coursera training, that was 150 hours, and then we provided like wraparound services and additional trainings, like soft trainings on communication skills and so forth. But yeah, it was the most time consuming and difficult to get the companies involved. And the profile that we were giving or training was IT support specialist. So this is also a role that is possible to kind of use as an entry level role to get your foot to IT. So yeah, but the same experience from our side as well.
Fantastic. Celia, first of all, thank you very much for being a model participant, asking questions, contributing with your experience, and also asking questions that's probably in the mind of many other participants. So thank you very much for also engaging a bit and having this discussion. I think there was some insights here that were very interesting, how many hours and very practically on how things work. As you can see from the time, we're slowly coming towards the end already. It's been really great so far, but we're a bit running out of time. What I would like to do as the last activity before sort of doing a little wrap up here is to ask you a few questions. So once again, your active participation would be very welcome here. We'll be using a tool which is a little bit like Mentimeter, which many of you might know. This tool is called AHA Slides. I'm going to share the screen with you. If I could get a confirmation from my colleagues that the screen sharing is working.
Yes, we can see it. But we also have a notification from Teams about accessibility.
See?
There we go.
But you see it, right? It's still working now?
Yes, yes, we can see it.
All right, so if everybody could go to the website, I think I can post it here as well. Let's see if you just click this little link. It should probably be working. It says 5 minutes left on our scheduled meeting. Kasia, is it going to kick us out automatically in 5 minutes?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
I
Okay.
hope not.
Otherwise, we have to sprint here. I'll wait for a few more people to join. I see only 3 in the 5 joined now. So if you can either click the link in the chat or you just go to ahaslides.com/bhvz1. See if we get at least 10 people in here. Maybe everybody else went for coffee. It is coffee time. A few hearts. Thank you very much for the hearts. All right, while people are still joining, I would suggest that we move to the first question. Well, it's 3 statements, and I would just like to kind of get a bit of a sense of how you feel about the project, how you feel about women's empowerment. It's something that it's just to kind of gather a little bit the mood. So you will see now on my screen. So once you go to the website, of course you will have to answer. There's 3 statements here, and I would love to ask you to now give your opinion if you completely agree with these statements or if you completely disagree with these statements. So I see the first answers coming in. Very good. All right, some more answers are coming in. We see the graphs building slowly. Okay, the good news is so far everybody agrees that we need more women in digital jobs. That's good. So the premise of the whole project is very much confirmed. That's good. With the employment toolkit, there's still some questions here. Some more positive, some doubting elements here. We have a lot of people sharing hearts with us, which is great. So the employment toolkit can help, but there's of course other tools, as we've just seen, of course, other tools and mechanisms to get in touch with employers. I don't see the yellow bar at all. I think the yellow bar is probably just hiding behind the, there we go. It's hiding behind the blue bar. Very good. So that's fantastic to see that there's so much positivity about both the premise and the project as such. So I'm happy to see that people felt that there's an element here that is important to continue working on, to build collaborations. And then of course, the employment toolkit with a 4.0, that's very solid. So I'm happy to hear, even after only a short presentation of what the employment toolkit is all about, there's a lot of positivity about it. There's many other ways, of course, to reach out to employers, not only the toolkit, but of course we hope that giving you this toolkit and having developed this toolkit will help you in the future also to engage employers, but also to train, of course, young women. All right, let's move on to the next question, because as I said, we're a bit out of time here. So the next question is, what is your favorite activity to reach out to employers? So we've seen a range of activities that we had in the Padlet. So just one word or two words, which are your favorite activities? What do you think works best? What is most efficient? Or maybe what is, you know, the one that you personally or your organization finds is the most attractive of all the activities we've seen? So let's see, you can type in your favorite activity. This is really just a snapshot to see whether, you know, we've seen the phone calls and the networking, and we've seen different things. Let's see if everybody agrees on the same, or networking events seem to be really, I think after COVID, everybody's longing back to meet in person and have the coffee talk I was talking about earlier. Success stories, of course, emails and then calls. I think that's probably the most common one, right? You email someone and then you try to set up a meeting, whether it's a digital meeting, a call. Events, contact HR departments, references, social media. So I see the networking is the one in the middle, which I think have many of you chosen. Events and networking really seem to be at the center of it all. I think the personal contact is something that we can't neglect. It's great to send a mass email or to publish something on social media, but the direct connection, the personal connection, I think is really what works best, and is something that we all long to when we think of something so important like finding a job or getting a young person into a job or an internship. So networking works best. All right, let's move on to the next question, which is, I think, already one of the last ones. What is your main takeaway from this workshop? We only had an hour and a half together, but I hope that you take something away. So short moment for you to reflect. What is your main takeaway from this small webinar from the last 1.5 hours? To apply for the Norwegian grant, fantastic. Networking and wonderful projects. That our Estonian colleagues have fantastic ideas. Once again, thank you, Sirja. Thumbs up. And we need to continue on such projects. Sharing ideas and networking. Yes, with this being said, sharing ideas and networking, feel free to continue thinking about what you've taken away from this small workshop, from this small webinar, only 1.5 hours. I, of course, very, very much hope that you can all get in touch with the project team. You've seen the faces, you know the names, you know the website. So if you feel, hey, there's more to know here, this is, of course, really just a bird's eye view of this very complex and long-lasting 3-year project. So if you want to be in touch, feel free to get in touch with our project team, ask questions, maybe think about future projects to apply once again for the Norwegian grants. So that's something that, of course, you can do. There's still a few things coming in here, non-formal training. Yes, fantastic. People seem to be enthusiastic, which is great. So with this being said, I think I will stop sharing my screen now, and we're already a little bit over time. I hope, Kasia, you don't mind that we're going a few minutes late. Now I just have to find how I stop presenting. There we go. So once again, all the screens are now in full view. So from my side, thank you very much once again for sharing all this information. We will be putting together a small report of this webinar. You will be contacted afterwards if you registered via email, where you will get the slides and also a small summary of this webinar. So if you would like to share this with colleagues, or if you just want to reflect a little bit more about it, you can, of course, wait for this. for this email. I'd like to thank all the speakers for I think really giving very clear presentation, for sticking to the time that was allocated, which is of course always really important when you have very little time. And of course to everyone that participated really actively, despite the the manageable number of colleagues that was with us. People participated in both the interactive session as well as asking questions in between. So thank you very much. And I think I'll give the word to Kasia to say a few closing words. And yeah, I'm really excited about this project, and good job, everyone.
Stefan, you stole a couple of points from me from my wrap up, but that's perfectly fine because we're saving up the time. I just want to say thank you to everyone attending today and sharing your input, your contributions. This is of great value to us as Women4IT because we really want to continue next year. We'll see whether that's possible, but we want to grow the project further and further. And this is also the opportunity for other organizations, for your organizations, but maybe other organizations that you know, to take the tools, the solutions that we have developed over the last 3 years, learn from our experience, the good stuff, but also the bad, learn from our mistakes, and take what we have learned, take the tools and, scale up the project to develop something in your organizations, your regions, your countries, to make the impact that I said in the beginning we really want to make across Europe. If you would want to scale the project and help us or collaborate with us in any way, feel free to contact myself, Andrea Vita, and we can definitely work out a solution, have a call, and see how we can cooperate further. If you want to learn more about Women4IT, of course, I invite you to our website, but also our social media channels that Niv will share here in a chat in a moment. And you can always reach out to us also via email if you have any questions, any doubts, any suggestions. So we always welcome any feedback and communication. And I think that's it. Stefan mentioned the report, so that's something that we'll be sending out your way. Thank you, everyone, so much. And I wish you a lovely, lovely rest of the day and the coming weekend. It's a long weekend for some of you, so enjoy and have fun and get some rest.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Take care. Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.